I learned today that Ole Miss has a pink visitor locker room. Shout out Jack Settleman and the Snapback guys. But that got me thinking, what are the worst visitor locker rooms in all of college football? Now, obviously, I have no direct experience. This is merely me finding things where I can find them, such as on Twitter with this image. This is apparently LSU's visitor locker room, which is a bit lackluster. Back to pink locker rooms for a moment. The school that actually started that, from my knowledge, was Iowa. They even have a Twitter account dedicated to it. Anyways, apparently this is actually backed by science, and I'm not kidding. This specific shade of pink, there was a study done about this specific shade of pink, and it apparently temporarily reduces hostile, violent, and aggressive behaviors. So when everybody's hyped pre-game, maybe they're actually calming down. Not really bad, more so just savage. This is Alabama's visitor locker room, also known as the Fail Room. And you might be like, well, that's not very nice. Well, it's actually in honor of James M. Fail. So, I also read an ESPN article that when Jim Harbaugh was at Michigan and they played Purdue, he complained a lot about Purdue's visitor locker rooms, which is these. But to be honest, these don't look that bad. I feel like it could be way worse. But that brings up my next point of it was very hard to find and differentiate between old and current photos of visitor locker rooms, because I feel like my next example perfectly portrays that. In another interview with ESPN, Mike Leach, who at the time was the Washington State head coach, said about Mississippi State's visitor locker rooms, and I quote, "Every wall was concrete. The floor was concrete. The ceiling was concrete. Everything was concrete. There was no furniture, no benches. There was no lockers." And he goes on to say, there was 2 toilets in the middle of the locker room right next to each other. I couldn't find a photo, so I created this image to represent that. But the reason why I prefaced with all that, it's hard to differentiate and know what's old versus new, is because Cash Peterman, shout out Cash, did a video, I think it was last year in 2024, of the inside of Mississippi State's visitor locker rooms. And they don't look that bad. In fact, he gave it a score of 9 out of 10. But hey, former players, current players, let me know in the comments which schools had the worst visitor locker rooms in your experience.